Well, right now, what we've been talking about for the last hour, and that is a pretty special moment for us here. Big fight here in Las Vegas tomorrow night, George Foreman and Tommy Morrison. And right now, we have the weigh-in live for all of that and all of those festivities. Let's get up to my partner, Al Bernstein, in the center of the ring. Al?
Thank you, Barry. We are ready now for the weigh-in for the WBO Heavyweight Championship fight, which will be tomorrow here in Las Vegas. And we will kick it off by weighing in the challenger. Tommy Morrison, who is the challenger in this bout, will now weigh in. Tommy Morrison.
Too late now. They already got it. I'll just subtract the penalty. You're already on TV. I'll subtract. Okay, with the shoes, 226.
226 for Tommy Morrison, as he gets ready to challenge for the WBO Heavyweight Championship. And now the former champion of the world, George Foreman. George Foreman weighs in at 256 pounds. And so they are ready for the WBO Heavyweight Championship match. And they are taking shots of George Foreman here on the scale. As we will get ready, we're going to have a chance to chat with both of the fighters. We're going to have a chance to talk to Tommy Morrison and also to George Foreman. And they are clowning a bit for the folks here. And you can see that as this promotion has developed, Barry, of course, it has not been a rancor-filled situation. These fighters have been pretty amiable with each other. Both men, as I said, we're going to have a chance to talk to both men here. And Barry, you're going to have a chance, I believe, to talk to Tommy Morrison, who came in here at a very fit 226 pounds.
Yeah, I think it's kind of interesting, Al, that this is 5 pounds heavier than when he fought Ray Mercer, and that's a fight, of course, that he really wants to apologize for. Let's go back to you, Al. You're going to talk with George. Well,
I have George Foreman here with me. And George, 256, you look like a very fit 256.
No, I was hoping for 265. I don't know how. I ate a good breakfast and the whole deal. I don't know what happened.
How did I know you were going to say that? But you do look fit for this fight, and you've worked very hard for this bout. Some people actually think that you've had a more serious attitude in terms of the way you've looked at this bout.
This is going to be a serious fight, and of course, I've had a serious time, yeah.
Now, his punching, of course, is the thing that makes him different than some of the opponents you fought, in that he's got lots of power. How are you going to avoid that double left hook of his?
Oh, I don't know. I've been in the ring with a lot of double hookers before. The frightening moment I had was when I had to face Joe Frazier, who had a left hook, was really a murderous hook, and I was scared then. I'm only frightened this time.
There's a difference between being frightened and scared. Yeah. Much has been made, from Tommy's standpoint, of speed, that he has a little quicker punches and a little more speed, but your jab may be the neutralizer in that.
Yeah, he's probably all the things he's got going for him, better for him. And then I've got a few things going for me, mostly 256 pounds. I'm going to use those pounds, too.
This is supposed to be your last fight. You've got the sitcom coming up. Has any of that weighed on your mind going into this?
Oh, not at all. I try to enjoy every day. I've had a good time. I even want something to drink now, some water or something, but I've had a good time. When I get into the television work, I'm going to have a lot of fun. I'm going to be working every week and trying to make people laugh and like to say hello to my mother right there. I miss you.
Okay. You even got a hello. And George, good luck in the fight.
Okay, thank you.
All right, George Foreman, who is humorous as ever and appears to be fit and ready for this bout. Now let's send things down to Barry Tompkins, who has the other half of this match, Tommy Morrison.
All right, thanks very much, Al. Well, George Foreman is still kind of laughing and scratching, and that's really been the story here, Tommy. It's been a promotion. There's been a lot of tickets to sell, but when does all the fun and games stop?
Well, the fun and games stopped for me about a little over 8.5 weeks ago. Once we went into camp, obviously, we had to go to New Orleans and do the cable thing, and it was a pleasure. I think we both had fun with it. We both gave each other our space, but George is a great guy. He's a class act. I like to consider myself on that same level. We had a good time doing it, but now it's time to take care of business.
Do you feel that you have amends to make for the Ray Mercer fight? Obviously, there was a lot to be learned in that fight for you.
Well, that was the one fight that I feel as a team that we learned the most. It gave us as a team an indication of what direction we needed to travel. I need to become a more complete fighter. And when I say complete, I mean being able to rely on other things other than being able to hit hard, being able to back up, being able to box a little bit, being able to move, be able to be a little more defensive. And I think I matured a lot as an athlete. Prior to that, I probably didn't have the greatest training habits in the world, but I've matured as an athlete, feel very comfortable with where I'm at, and I actually, this time, I feel like I belong here.
All right, you were saying about 8.5 weeks ago it started to get serious, and I'm sure when you lay awake at night, you sort of think, here's how this fight is going to go. So how do you see this fight going?
Well, it's on paper, you know, it looks like it's probably going to be a very exciting fight. You know, I don't think there's any secret to beating someone like George. Obviously, the opposition that he's been facing, with the exception of Holyfield, probably hasn't been as tough as it will be tomorrow night. And it's something that I think a lot of people are looking forward to. It's a very competitive fight, which is something that people haven't seen in the heavyweight division in quite some time. So I think that it's going to be a very exciting night.
Are you going to have to take the fight to him?
Well, George is a type of individual it's going to come right straight at me. And I'm, as everyone knows, I don't take too many backward steps either. George is definitely not the sort of individual that you want to stand in front of a whole lot. But at the same time, I can't afford to get away from what's brought me this far, and that's being a very explosive athlete.
All right, but once again, let me just harken back to the Mercer fight, and I know you want to forget about it, but you were right on him quickly, and you did a great job early, and then all of a sudden things changed. Now, what can you do to change that?
Well, one thing that I didn't know how to do, and I think George Foreman knows a little bit about this, is be able to relax. And one thing that after the Mercer fight, as a matter of fact, I spoke to George Foreman through my manager, and because he used to suffer from the same problem that I had early in his first career, and he gave us some exercises to go through. You know, running longer distances, going on hour runs, 10-mile runs, going instead of 3-minute rounds, go 6-minute rounds, 8-minute rounds, to where you get to know your limits as a fighter. Everyone has limits, and everyone's limits are different. And once you get to know them, then you know when to turn it on, when to turn it off, when you're going over your limits and when you're not. And that's something that you have to learn by actually going through it, and I never was able to. I've been playing catch up to the Ray Mercers and the Lennox Lewises and the Riddick Bows because I never really had the initial experience as an amateur that they did. So I've been playing catch up, and now I feel like I'm closing the gap just a little bit.
Yeah, no more catch up. You're at the finish line now. You got your moment in the sun. I wish you well, Tom.
Thank you very much.
Tommy Morrison, the other half of the matchup that we just saw between George Foreman, that will happen tomorrow night right here in Las Vegas. Well, Al Bernstein is joining me again.
A special presentation of HBO Sports, celebrating 20 years of World Championship Boxing.
For the winner and
Man, what a fight. What a fight. I mean, I couldn't do anything wrong. That was perfect.
Come on, Tommy, you've watched this fight a million times.
I know. Let's watch one more time, and then we'll go get something to eat, and I'll even pay. I'll pay.
Right. Turn it on.
And this is great.
from Las Vegas, Nevada.
June 7th will probably be the last time anyone will ever see me in a boxing ring, and I want to go out in grand style.
I don't know how long it's going to last, but I'll tell you this, it will not be boring.
They are matching power for power.
This fight will be probably the most important fight of my life because I promised the people that I would do my best.
Lands a couple of lefts and follows with a right, and Morrison comes back with a left hook. Morrison landing a right and a left, and the right uppercut. And Foreman momentarily off balance. So the drama is, you know the story. 1 minute to go in round 12.
Hey, all I can say is, may the best man win.
From Las Vegas, Nevada, HBO Sports presents World Championship Boxing. This evening, the Thomas & Mack Center plays host as legendary heavyweight George Foreman takes on Tommy Morrison in a battle for bargaining leverage and the inside track toward a title shot. A record cold weekend in Vegas has surrendered to the expected June warm. Tonight in this air-conditioned arena, the heat will be generated when two of the most powerful punchers in boxing clash in the center of the ring. Foreman versus Morrison, age versus youth, for each an opportunity clouded by mystery. To be decided, the future of two fighters. Hello again, I'm Jim Lampley. Welcome back to HBO's World Championship Boxing and our coverage of a match which, regardless of who wins it, should have a significant effect on the business of the heavyweight division in the near future. No one can speak more categorically to that point after the fight than the man with whom it will be our privilege to work tonight on a one-time basis, IBF and WBA World Heavyweight Champion Riddick Bowe. Riddick, welcome to the telecast.
Thank you.
There's a similarity, it seems, between the situation in which Tommy Morrison finds himself tonight and the situation into which you walked in this arena last November when you entered the ring against Evander Holyfield and answered a lot of existing questions about whether you could execute a fight plan, whether you'd be there for 12 rounds, whether you could win a war. There are questions for Morrison as well, are there not, as he goes in against George Foreman?
Well, I think it's very important for Tommy to come out, relax, and do what he does best. Don't let the crowd bother him and just focus on George Foreman.
There's a danger of Tommy being overcome by the big event?
It has bothered him somewhat in the past, but if he can overcome that, I think that will show us that he's becoming a better fighter.
Other questions. Can he take a punch? Does he have the stamina to hold up over a long fight?
Well, we'll see. We know George will be testing his chin, and if he's around long enough, he will get tired. So tonight, everything will be tested.
We'll be looking forward to hearing what Riddick has to say throughout the bout. We'll also be working, as always, with HBO boxing analyst Larry Merchant. And Larry, about those questions for Tommy Morrison, suppose he answers them affirmatively, as Riddick did last November against Evander Holyfield. What then for George Foreman?
Well, if it turns out that Tommy Morrison isn't just a pretty face with a rumored punch, if he doesn't go into a swoon when George Foreman takes off his robe, then he may be a real world-class heavyweight. And in that case, it could be a long night or even a short night for George Foreman. Because one of the best kept secrets in boxing since George Foreman has had his wondrous 7-year comeback is that he really hasn't beaten a top heavyweight. The best heavyweight he fought was Alex Stewart, and Alex Stewart beat him up in the process. And yet that fight defined what George Foreman is. He never takes a backward step no matter what. We know he won't take a backward step. We don't know that about Tommy Morrison.
Now, Larry, because this fight is sanctioned as a heavyweight title bout by an organization called the World Boxing Organization, the WBO, George Foreman is calling it his last chance to win a heavyweight title. Should we put any significance in that?
Well, any group that sanctions this as a heavyweight championship fight defines itself. It's like a movie critic in Kilgore, Texas, deciding that he or she can give out the Academy Awards.
Indeed, in claiming this is a championship fight, the WBO reacts much the way boxing fans do. Because in terms of public approval, both Morrison and Foreman are much more popular than their real ability in the ring might merit. Now here they come. Tommy Morrison, fighting out of Kansas City, Kansas. 36 wins, 1 loss. His career more defined by the 1 loss, a beating at the hands of Ray Mercer, than by the 36 victories, 16 of which have been first-round knockouts. He is ranked as the number 7 contender by the IBF and the WBA. But Larry, in terms of commercial clout and leverage within the sport, surely he ranks higher than that. In fact, it is reported that there's a 50-50 offer on the table for him to fight Lennox Lewis this fall if he can win against Foreman here. And there is the record for Morrison, 32 knockouts in the 36 victories in 37 fights.
This is a lot bigger fight for him than the $1 million or $1 million+ he can earn for here, obviously. But when you get to this level of the game, it is for everybody concerned.
And here is the reason why this is such a big fight for Tommy Morrison. Surely the most popular fighter on the planet, George Foreman. 24 years of ring experience. Included in that is the 10-year layoff from 1977 to 1987. He is looking tonight for the 73rd victory of his long ring career. And there are the vital statistics for the baby boomer comeback effort that began in 1987.
And George seems positively eager to get into the ring. Doesn't he, Riddick?
Yes, George is coming to the ring with a lot of energy. I like that in George. I think he's ready.
George Foreman, soon to be the star of his own television situation comedy, taping to begin very soon, has put together this background in the ring. 72 wins in 75 fights. The losses to Muhammad Ali and Jimmy Young in the first career. And, of course, the 12-round decision loss to Evander Holyfield on April 19, 1991, when he improbably earned a title shot in this late-in-life comeback. George Foreman weighed in for this bout 2 days ago at 256 pounds. 40 pounds down from what he says was his walking around weight of 296 just a few months ago.
But more importantly, Jim, his body looks firm. I don't think I've seen him look this good since his comeback, which tells us that he's really taking this seriously, as he should.
And this 256 is simply the latest plateau in Foreman's continued peregrinations up and down the weight scale throughout his career. 219 when he began as a pro in 1969. 217 when he won the title from Joe Frazier in 1973. 267 when he began the comeback effort in 1987 against Steve Zowski. 235 at the lowest weight level in the comeback effort. And 256 tonight, about average for the last several ring appearances, all of which have been in the neighborhood of 255 to 260 pounds. Tail of the tape, and you'll see some dramatically different numbers here. Of course, the 20-year age advantage for Morrison, 2 inches difference in height, and the advantage to Foreman there, and Foreman weighs 30 pounds more than Tommy as they enter the ring.
And here are our punch stat numbers to give you an idea of how busy these fighters are. Morrison is not as busy as George Foreman, and presently you'll see why. That is because George throws more jabs. The jab, everyone feels, will determine the outcome of this fight, because if George can land a jab, he can control what happens in the ring.
Harold Letterman, our unofficial ringside scorer, gives us the rules of the World Boxing Organization.
George Foreman and Tommy Morrison will box tonight under the rules of the World Boxing Organization. 12 rounds. The 10-point must system is in effect. There is no standing 8 count. The 3 knockdown rule is in effect. You can be saved by the bell in the last round only. Only the referee can stop the fight. In a case a cut is caused by an accidental headbutt, and that cut causes the fight to be stopped, we go to the scorecards after 3 rounds have been completed. Before that, it's a technical draw. Jim.
After a near 3 knockdown disaster in his last fight against Carl the Truth Williams, Morrison's people wanted the 3 knockdown rule to be waived, but no dice. Now up to ring announcer Michael Buffer.
Secret recipe at Kentucky Fried Chicken present 12 rounds of boxing for the World Boxing Organization Heavyweight Championship of the World. This bout is sanctioned by the Nevada State Athletic Commission, Chairman Dr. Elias Ghanem, Commissioners Nat Carasali, Bruce Lane, Luther Mack, and Dr. James Nave. Chief Inspector Mark Ratner. WBO President, former light heavyweight champion Jose Torres. WBO Supervisor ringside Alberto Aleman. Physicians in attendance, lead physician Dr. Flip Homansky, Dr. James Wishgame, and Dr. Robert Boy. The timekeepers are James Cavan and Mike Lasella. The scoring for this bout would be done on a 10-point must system, and the 3 judges assigned at ringside are Patricia Jarman, Jerry Roth, and Dalby Shirley. And when the bell rings, the man in charge of the action, referee Mills Lane. And now, ladies and gentlemen, from Las Vegas, Nevada, by way of the Las Vegas Hilton, introducing first, fighting out of the blue corner, wearing the black trunks with stars and bars, weighing in at 226 pounds, this knockout artist has a professional record of 36 victories with 32 KOs against only 1 defeat. He comes here tonight from Kansas City. Ladies and gentlemen, introducing the number 2 ranked heavyweight in the world, Tommy the Duke Morrison. And his opponent across the ring, fighting out of the red corner, wearing the white trunks and weighing in at 256 pounds. We have the 1968 Olympic gold medalist, who now as a professional is 72-3 with 67 KOs, which is the greatest knockout ratio in heavyweight history. Ladies and gentlemen, from Houston, Texas, presenting the former heavyweight champion of the world, here's George Foreman.
All right, gentlemen, Angelo, and if he goes right here, I'm not going to call it low. Right here is going to be all right. Now, you've only had your instructions 1 time. This is for the championship of the world. I expect a tough, clean fight. Protect yourself at all times. Any questions here? Any questions here? Let's get it on.
Tommy Morrison is built like a sheer granite cliff. The main question here is whether there is glass or granite on top of the mountain.
And just as Morrison had his own official controversy, wanting the 3 knockdown rule to be wiped out for this bout, Foreman complained about referee Mills Lane, believing that he would have preferred another man to be the 3rd man in the ring. But the Nevada State Athletic Commission stuck to its guns and its favorite referee, Lane, for the bout. Tommy Morrison has said, Riddick Bowe, that he will be too busy for George. He has a habit of starting slowly. Here he tries to use the jab to get active early.
You see Tommy's doing something different already, and George's hands are extremely high. Tommy's backing up in this fight. We've never seen him do that before. So perhaps he knows something that we don't.
Do you think there's any chance that Morrison can be effective backing up?
Not as effective as he is coming forward.
Most of the early action begins with Morrison. Foreman is expected to try to land the jab and dictate the pace of the bout with that punch. Morrison trying to hook to the body. He says that he doesn't believe George Foreman can take punches to the body well, but few fighters have tried to go to George's body because you run the risk of bringing your hands down and leaving your head exposed.
George needs to cut the ring off instead of following Tommy around.
Right hand over the top by Morrison is the first heavy blow of the bout.
George is going to Tommy, but he's not really throwing punches.
Tommy Morrison's big weapon is the left hook, maybe the best in the heavyweight division. George Foreman, conqueror twice of Joe Frazier, said to us, left hookers don't bother me. So far, Morrison has tried to use the jab much more liberally than is normally the case for him. And Foreman not yet untracked, seemingly, Riddick.
Not at all. George is walking to Tommy, but I think he should be throwing more punches at this point.
Tommy Morrison beating Foreman to the punch in these early exchanges. George Foreman not yet started with the jab. Right hand to the body by Morrison. Seemed to sting Foreman, but George keeps coming forward. Right to the body by Morrison. Morrison continuing to beat Foreman to the punch. Riddick.
George has got something up his sleeves. What at this point we don't know.
Left hook by Morrison. There's the first thunderbolt, and the right lands behind it. Round one is a good one for Tommy Morrison.
Tommy Morrison has a game plan, which is unusual for him. We'll see if he can stick to it.
The jabs start working pretty. Guys looking to sucker you, just keep your hands up. That's all it's all about, really. Nothing there. Give me the best ring. Everything pretty. Everything pretty. I see it.
We're going to set up that hook. 7-7-2s to body, 7-7-2-1s.
Relax, baby. Doing good.
Any combinations, go to the body first, come up to the head. Bring his hands down. Doing a nice job. Real nice job. Good and relaxed. Good and relaxed. Keep that 7 coming back high. When you feel yourself in the corner, get out of it.
Tommy Morrison fights by the numbers, something introduced to boxing by Customato, who of course was Mike Tyson's mentor. He wants Morrison to keep going to the body and then come up to the top.
Punch stack numbers indicated that in the first round, Tommy Morrison threw 4 times as many punches as George Foreman, and Morrison starts the action early in round 2. Now Foreman unleashes the jab, and George looks just a little lighter on his feet, more willing to try to get a rhythm going.
I think George should use the jab a bit more. He might frustrate Tommy with it and open Tommy up for something.
Left hook by Morrison landed on Foreman's face. George has used the jab a couple times early in this round. It is still Morrison who is busier and who seems to be beating George to the punch. Now Morrison makes Foreman back up with the left hook and throws a right hand to the body.
I would like to see George give Tommy Morrison a little more feints and see how he reacts to him.
There's a blunt left inside by Foreman. He misses with a sweeping right. Lands the jab.
Beautiful.
Right hand by Morrison was solid. He lands a left hook inside. Foreman does not show hurt. Tommy Morrison boxing more effectively so far than most might have expected him to do.
This is the in and out formula that Alex Stewart used so effectively in his fight with George. Riddick.
Perhaps it might work for Tommy at this point. But let's see what happens if Tommy is able to last a couple of rounds.
And you saw again the quickness with which Morrison unleashes the left hook. Right hand over the top. George Foreman with the right hand up, very left hook conscious, was open to that right hand.
I'm really surprised George isn't throwing more punches at this point.
Maybe George is surprised by how busy Morrison has been. Now there's a left hand by Foreman, and remember, when you watch Big George, he tends to make opponents woozy sometimes with what appear to be glancing blows. He has exceptionally heavy hands.
Let's see what happens when George is able to land a couple of more of them jabs.
Jab landed for Foreman. Morrison comes back with 2 right hands.
Every time George hits him with a jab, he backs Tommy up.
Morrison, left jab, left hook. Both were glancing blows. Foreman lands the jab again, and again Morrison backs up just as you said he would, Riddick. Right hand lands for Foreman. Morrison momentarily stunned. Closing seconds of round 2. That was the most effective blow so far for Foreman, and Morrison answers with a left hook and a right hand and another left hook.
Fine.
Damn, what are you doing? Just trying to get around.
Okay. Deep breath. Spit bucket. Good, George.
Use your 7 a little more. Puff the baby up. Yeah. You waited in the corner, and you let him get off first.
Morrison has an edge in youth and quickness and energy, and he's trying to impose that edge here early in the fight. And here comes a combination, and I think that one stunned George just momentarily. And at the end, George comes in with a pushing but hard right hand. He's a very hard puncher, George is. I should say a very heavy puncher.
Double entendre. He's heavy and he can punch. Tommy Morrison was breathing very heavily between rounds 2 and 3. Remember that he has had a stamina problem in the past. In his loss to Ray Mercer, Morrison dominated the early rounds, then very visibly and obviously ran out of gas and was pummeled mercilessly by Mercer.
I would like to see if Tommy can maintain his pace for quite some time.
Well, if he can do that, Riddick, he's going to cause problems for George, isn't he?
Yeah, but I think George is waiting for Tommy to run out of gas.
The book on Morrison would be that exactly that would happen. Morrison landed a hard left hand to the body inside in that last exchange. Now tries the left hook again. A lot more jabs than Morrison threw in his last fight here on HBO against Carl the Truth Williams. Foreman lands a couple of lefts and follows with a right. And Morrison comes back with a left hook. Morrison ducking the right hand, just got away.
George is also using his weight now. He's pushing Tommy back, making Tommy use his legs, and eventually perhaps Tommy might tire.
Jim, I thought that right hand that George threw landed flush. If it did, that's the good news for Tommy Morrison.
I agree with you, Larry. I think it was the kind of blow with which Foreman has damaged other fighters over the years, and Morrison seemed to take it pretty well. But now the jab lands twice in the teeth of Tommy Morrison, and George is beginning to get on track with the jab, Riddick.
Let's see what happens when Tommy has to take these jabs, these right hands, and gets winded.
The left hand landed inside for Foreman. Morrison was wild with the answering left hook. Now a left and a right for Morrison. Straight left hand for Morrison. He's been able to get to Foreman just as Alex Stewart did in this same ring in April of '92. Both fighters landing the jab. George Foreman's jab has been compared to being hit in the mouth by a telephone pole as you pass in front of a window. Loving left hand by Foreman, tries to follow with a right and a left, both missed. Morrison lands the left hook. There is a mouse under the left eye of Tommy Morrison. No doubt the product of a Foreman right hand.
I think down the Foreman pressure is starting to show on Tommy.
Tommy sticks the jab effectively. And again, and again, and again. 4 straight jabs for Morrison. Closing seconds of round 3 now. And there's a little bit of a mouse under the right eye of Foreman as well. So watch the left eye of Tommy Morrison, the right eye of George Foreman as round 3 comes to a close.
Keep it slow, looking good. Okay, good. Okay, now, that's a round you took off. Relax, relax, calm down, all right? Your recovery is good. Your recovery is good. The more you relax, the better off you are, okay? Now, we need more punches. I need more 7s, okay? That's what's going to keep him off of you. Fakes and flints when he gets close and you don't want to throw.
Here's Morrison using his body shots exactly how he planned. He's fighting a very good tactical fight, but he caught a solid right hand from George Foreman, and once again, the good news is he's still standing. George trying to bully him, trying to impose his strength, trying to impose his will, trying to impose his image as George Foreman.
Punch stat numbers say that in round 3, George Foreman landed 23 of 35 punches. That's a 66% connect rate. Remember that he's using mostly the jab. Morrison tries to start the action as round 4 begins. We are evolving toward a slugfest as Tommy Morrison again lands the left flush on George Foreman's face. Foreman throws the jab. Morrison answers with a left of his own. It'll be a real test for Tommy to see if he can maintain his will and his stamina in the face of Foreman's thudding jab.
Also his battle plan, Jim.
Right hand by Morrison knocks Foreman's head back a little bit. They trade punches in the middle of the ring. Tommy seems able to take George's stuff for the moment, Riddick.
Yeah, I think now we're going to fight. We get into a good fight now. But how long can Tommy take it? So far, I'm very impressed. Tommy puts his punches together very well.
Morrison again landing flush on Foreman's face. He seems for the moment to have forgotten to go to the body, which was part of the plan, but he's landing effectively to the head. Foreman with the jab. Morrison answers with a right. Foreman pawing with the jab that time. Low blow for Foreman. He got away with it as Mills Lane was directly behind him. Morrison's left hook partially blocked.
Get that elbow down, George. Come on, get that elbow. Punch out. Come on.
Tommy keeps walking to his right, trying to keep George from setting up to throw the jab. But Foreman is getting increasingly quick with his bread and butter punch. Both fighters getting a little bit of a breather right now. It's been a pretty intense pace in the early going, particularly when you consider Morrison's stamina problems and Foreman's age. Left to the body by Morrison, right hand upstairs landing. Foreman still landing consistently, and there's the right hand over the top. Morrison swinging wildly with the right. Most of the heavier blows have come from Tommy Morrison. Right hand lead by Morrison. Foreman clubbing with the right hand to the top of the head. Tommy lands a right and a left in return. A slugfest, Riddick. And George just keeps pressing forward.
Yes, indeed.
I got it. I'll get the iron.
Don't talk loud.
No, I won't say nothing. I'm with you. Come here. I'm here. I'm here nice and quiet, baby. Anything you want.
On our jabs to throw our combinations. We got to have head movement before and after the jab. Before and after. You're starting to creep up on your opponents. You got to make it.
Okay, Harold Letterman, give us your scorecard.
Larry, 39-37, 3 rounds to 1, Tommy Morrison. Now, I want to tell you something. I'm always talking about ring generalship. Watch Tommy Morrison move in, get his shots off, move out. Beautiful ring generalship. Moves to the right, which is an unnatural move for him, and he's using that really good double jab. Doubling up on a jab just like Riddick Bowe does.
I have the fight scored 2 rounds apiece.
Round 5 begins. Punch stat numbers with an interesting stat. Tommy Morrison, who couldn't seem to remember to throw the jab against Carl the Truth Williams, has thrown 118 of them already against George Foreman, landing at a 28% rate. Morrison with a thudding left hook. Foreman comes back with the left. Right hand by Morrison, and it's the good news for Morrison early, Riddick, is that he's taken George's stuff. George has weathered the left hook a couple of times.
I'm pretty impressed with Tommy. He's been throwing a variety of different punches. I've never seen him use a lead right hand, but he's been doing that pretty well. And you got to take your hat off to George. George is in with a young man who's extremely strong, and he's taking his best shots.
Morrison has been quoted in the last couple of days saying that he didn't think George Foreman took a punch all that well. Sage ring observers said he's whistling in the dark. Most people believe George takes a punch extremely well.
I would have to say, so far he's taking Tommy's best hook.
And you heard Foreman saying to Angelo Dundee between rounds, don't say a word, don't tell me anything. The two of them play an interesting game of psychological cat and mouse with one another as the fight progresses. Right hand by Morrison. And again, Foreman takes it well. George comes back with the jab and chases Tommy as Tommy does a pirouette against the ropes. I have a feeling that George Foreman is extremely pleased with the way things are going, Riddick.
I think at this time the tide is about to turn. I see Tommy being winded, and he's loading up with everything at this point.
Tommy seems to be getting a little anxious and trying for nothing but power punches.
And George is still calm, cool, and collected.
Left hook lands for Morrison. George keeps walking forward.
Tommy is doing something extremely well. He's throwing the hook and moving. And George has to regroup and set up all over again.
It's going to take tremendous conditioning, though, for Morrison to continue to move for 12 rounds like this. He's never fought past the 9th round. Foreman patiently stalking. Morrison using the foot movement to stay away from the jab. Looping right hand over the top for Morrison, didn't do anything. Foreman got one into the body, and now Morrison tries one to the body and lands a left hook right at the bell.
Okay, very good.
They put it in mind. But we need combinations, punches and bunches. Lead with speed, follow with power. Lead with speed, follow with power.
You'll see the left hook to work here. That's the money punch for Tommy Morrison. A punch that could put him into the very big money. There you see George chasing a pirouetting Morrison. He's like a linebacker going after a ballet dancer.
Seems like to me George jab is so strong it made him turn around.
Punch stat numbers through round number 5. You can see how much busier Morrison has been, how much more accurate Foreman has been. Interesting fight to try to score. Foreman landing at a 63% rate. That's not tremendously surprising because George is an accurate puncher and Tommy doesn't defend himself all that well. Round 6, Morrison with his mouth open, snorting through the nose, maybe beginning to lose his wind just a little bit. Foreman relaxed as always. Now Mills Lane is going to talk to George Foreman about the low blow. First warning, Morrison jumps in with a left hook. And Foreman goes right back to the body. We pointed out to you earlier, swelling under the right eye of Foreman and under the left eye of Morrison. Neither has turned into a dangerous situation for either fighter yet.
Tommy's using a lot of movement. I'm very impressed with that.
Got partial contact with the left hook. Well, he was determined to go side to side to make it tough for George, Riddick, and he's managed to do that so far.
Yes, indeed. But I think George in the later rounds should catch up with Tommy.
Why are you saying that?
Well, I think that's in George's game plan. He wants Tommy to get winded, and then he's going to apply the pressure. George isn't throwing a lot of punches. I say at this point he's preserving himself.
George looks extremely relaxed. Is that what gives you the confidence that he will still be at his best in the late rounds?
I would like to think so.
Left hook lands for Morrison. Of course, the danger for Foreman is that by allowing Tommy to be busier, he runs the risk of falling behind on points. Few people thought that this fight could go to a decision. Again, they trade punches. And again, it is Morrison who beats Foreman to the punch until George goes back to the jab and lands 3 of them in a row. Morrison goes back to foot movement to try to stay away from the jab. As soon as he stands still like that, he must punch or else fall victim to the Foreman jab.
George gave Tommy a feint, and see how he reacted, but George waited too long to fire off for it.
One thing George likes to do, Riddick, is to reach out and simply push Tommy on the shoulders to try to knock him off balance. Now Foreman lands 2 right hands, and Morrison is a little bit more open than before.
Yeah, Tommy needs to close his mouth because he'll get hit and break and get his jaw broken again.
Sweeping left hook landed for Morrison. Short right hand inside by Foreman. Morrison comes back with a left.
Better than halfway through. Better than halfway through. You're catching your second wind now. Right now, we're going to catch our second wind. Relax. Catch your second wind. All right?
That's what it's doing. That's what it's doing.
Beat him with right hand. Close your mouth. Beat him with right hand hook behind it. 2, 3 punches. Stop him from coming back with another. The jab is everything, son. Everything. Oh, little boy. Set him up with.
There's George throwing a left and a right. Morrison survives it and moves on. A good sign for Morrison even as he catches the punch.
As he has throughout the comeback that began in 1987, George Foreman stands in the corner between rounds. More than halfway through now as round 7 begins.
Watch the heads in there, guys.
Veteran observers of Tommy Morrison wait at this point for him to lose steam and fall off the precipice. That's been the frequent problem. Morrison landing a right and a left and the right uppercut, and Foreman momentarily off balance. Another right hand. Now Foreman lands a left and a right. They are matching power for power. Morrison may have been stunned just a little bit by a Foreman right hand. Tommy goes back to the jab. But the foot movement begins to disappear. Now Morrison remembers to try to walk away from the jab. Remember that when he stands still, he is an all too available target for George Foreman's heavy punches. Riddick, what do you think?
I think Tommy has proven to take a punch better than a lot of people anticipated. And George takes a better left hook than a lot of people anticipated.
And if they go the distance?
At this point, I think Tommy's ahead.
I think you're probably right. He's been the more active fighter. But of course, judges may have a soft spot for Foreman after 25 years of scoring his fights. They trade left hooks 1 for 1, and Foreman comes back with a second one of his own. Morrison back to the jab and the foot movement. Riddick?
I think at this point, George is the fresh of the two, believe it or not.
He seemed to get himself into amazing shape. We all looked at the weigh-in the other day and said, wow, that's not the way we would have thought George might look. Foreman relentlessly stalking. Closing seconds of round 7. It has been a very busy round for both fighters. Morrison lands an uppercut on the point of Foreman's chin. George continues to come forward. Throws the jab. Left hook to the body by Morrison. Left to the jaw by Foreman. Tommy's got to be wondering, when do I begin to back him up with all this heavy punching?
George doesn't know how to back up.
Okay, Tommy.
Here we go.
Buddy.
Looking good, baby.
Hey.
Keep it slow. It's your fight. You're in control.
You're in good control. I want you to take 30 seconds. All right, give yourself 30 of movement. I have to have more 7. You let him come in there all day long just now without throwing your 7.
His eyes are swollen shut.
I need your hands up. I need your position a little bit better, and need more combination.
There's a good, clean, hard right by Morrison. George weathers it. Doesn't let him get another punch in. And here is that segment of that round when the two of them were landing bombs like howitzers at each other.
Morrison may have felt that he had been thumbed in the eye there momentarily, but it doesn't seem to bother him as round 8 begins.
I don't think so. I think some of the grease off of George's body got on his face. He wanted to move the grease out of his eye.
Does that sting your eye when that happens, Riddick?
No, not really.
There you can see the numbers on how many times these two fighters have been past the 8th round.
Let's go, come on.
They are in the 8th this time. Tommy Morrison has never been past 9 rounds. Plenty of time for Foreman, you suspect, even if he is behind on points. 5 more rounds to go in a fight in which the tide seems inexorably to be turning in Big George's favor. Left hook by Morrison, and again Foreman takes it well. Straight jab by Foreman backs Morrison up. Low blow again by Foreman, and this time Morrison's hurt. Mills Lane sends Foreman to his corner. Now will he take a point away? He's got to get him to go to a neutral corner. Now will Mills take a point away?
Time. Okay, you get 5 minutes. You can have this duel.
All right, Harold Letterman, give us the rules.
Jim, the rule in the World Boxing Organization is that Tommy Morrison can take as much as 5 minutes. He must continue. If he doesn't continue after 5 minutes, he loses by abandonment. So he's got 5 minutes to rest up from the low blow.
Is there a mandatory deduction of a point?
It's entirely up to the referee whether he wants to deduct a point or not. I haven't seen Mills Lane make any indication that he wants to deduct a point so far.
This is the second time that Foreman has been officially warned for a low blow by Mills Lane. Are you surprised that no point has been deducted, Harold?
Well, as I say, it's the referee's call.
And they get back to the action in round 8. Tommy Morrison used about a minute of the 5 which had been allotted to him.
Jim, I don't think that low blow is really intentional. George tried to grab him after it happened. So I don't think George is a dirty fighter.
So that would be the reason why Lane didn't deduct a point, because it was accidental?
Yes, I think he realizes that it wasn't intentional.
When Riddick Bowe, the man seated next to us, defeated Pierre Kutzer to earn his shot at the World Heavyweight Championship, George Foreman said on our airwaves that Mills Lane had allowed Bowe to get away with too many low blows against Kutzer. That was one of the reasons why George felt uncomfortable with Lane as the referee here. Now, ironically, it appears that Lane allows Foreman to get away with low blows without deducting a point.
And also, a lot of shots George threw earlier, they wasn't actually low, they was on the borderline.
Left hook lands for Morrison. Foreman throwing the right hand over the top. Comes back to the jab. Aside from the swelling around his right eye, George shows no ill effects from all the heavy punches he's taken from Tommy. $226-pound Tommy Morrison, 256-pound George Foreman. Ten seconds to go in round 8. And we make the point one more time as Morrison comes out for the 9th. He'll be coming toward the round which represents as far as he's ever gone in a professional prize fight.
You're going to have to steal each round now, okay? At the end, you're going to steal it with combinations. Now, look, he's slow.
Harold Letterman, how do you see it through the first 2/3 of this fight?
Larry, 78-74, 6 rounds to 2. Tommy Morrison. I think he's winning this fight on speed and movement. As I say, real nice ring generalship. Circling in both directions, moving in, getting the shots off, doubling up on a left jab. Just outspeeding George Foreman to win this fight. I really think he's landed too many good shots, and George is not hitting him hard enough nor often enough. I think Tommy Morrison has got a chance to become a bigger hero in Kansas City than Joe Montana.
All right, I have the score 5 rounds to 3, and I'm not quite as excited as you are, Harold.
Riddick, do you still have a sense that Morrison is ahead on points?
Yeah, I think Morrison's still ahead, but George has a chance.
Round 9 begins. Tommy Morrison has been doggedly devoted in trying to stick with the jab. He's thrown 195 of them in the first 8 rounds of the fight. This from the Morrison who barely knew how to throw a jab against Carl the Truth Williams in January here on HBO. Morrison misses with the left hook, but seems to have a little bit of a second wind. Lands a right hand. Foreman comes back with the right underneath. Tommy comes over the top with the left. Another left hook. And Morrison's off to a good start in round 9. Body shot by Morrison. He walks away. I think if he can keep up the foot movement, he's got a good chance to win the fight. If he stands still, he's going to get himself in trouble.
You can say that again.
Hands in there, guys. I'm telling you, hands are free.
That uppercut was a glancing blow despite the reaction from the crowd. Must make you proud when you see fighters throw that uppercut inside. Riddick, you are repopularizing the punch.
That's what we're trying to say. They're copying.
Chanting George, George, George. And now there's an answering chant of Tommy, Tommy, Tommy. Right hand landed for Morrison. The left hook caught a piece of Foreman's chin. Because he has gotten back up on his toes and moved well, the 9th round has been a good one for Tommy Morrison.
I agree with you. I think as long as Tommy keeps on moving, he has a big chance of winning.
Now he shows some head movement as well. Something which was supposed to be a part of the plan. It's often difficult for fighters to remember to do it. But Foreman can't find the target, and the crowd cheers Morrison for his defensive prowess. Right hand as they break, and Morrison got it in, and Mills Lane says, don't hit on the break.
Morrison told us in an interview the other day that when someone moves his head, George doesn't punch, and that's what he's trying to do, to keep George off him by moving his head.
And Morrison closes out round 9 with a solid jab. It looked to be another Tommy Morrison round as the hole maybe gets just a little deeper for Big George.
No, nothing. No. I got it. Don't worry. You'll have everything. Hey, hold that. Everything's fine. As long as you're jabbing, you keep your hands up. You're beautiful.
Yeah, that man keep moving. Hit him with left hook, right hand. 1, 2, 3. And just spin him.
Don't worry about the body shot. Champ, let him go.
In face. Throw out the gloves. Get him out of there. Don't let him creep in on you. Okay? Everything that has 7s, move away, set up. Set up quicker. Set up quicker. Make him taller.
All right, watch him punch off of the clinch. Get a warning from the referee, Mills Lane. That's not nice, he said.
But he knew doggone good and well that since Lane didn't deduct a point from Foreman for low blows, he could get away with hitting on the break at least once.
Either George Foreman doesn't punch as hard as we've thought, or Tommy Morrison has finally got himself into the kind of condition that he can handle those punches.
And in round 9, Foreman slowed down, throwing only 30 punches, Riddick.
I don't think George's corner is giving him the right, advice. They feel as though George is winning the fight, and I don't think so.
I agree with you. I couldn't believe the absence of urgency in Foreman's corner. At some point, they have to tell him to get his motor going and look for a knockout, it would seem to me.
I think if George doesn't win the next 3 rounds, he loses this fight. He loses.
Well, he's in good shape in this round as he lands a left-right combination and try to set Morrison up for some more damage. Tommy still moving the feet, though, and managing to get away from a lot of George's heavy stuff. Left jab lands right in Morrison's mouth. Morrison comes back with a right over the top. George a little slow with the right. Tommy was able to duck the punch.
Riddick, like you, Morrison's been given an opportunity to answer the questions about him in this fight, and so far he's answered them well.
Yes, indeed. Just then, George didn't hit Tommy low, and they stopped.
Yeah, it was a legitimate body punch, and Lane seemed to think it was another low blow. But then he motioned Morrison to come back in, and now they trade punches once again. Tommy beginning to wear down a little bit in the first round 10 of his entire career. Right hand by Morrison temporarily stops the Foreman steamroller. George comes forward again. Clubbing punch by Foreman, left-right combination by Morrison. And now Tommy effectively ducking again and lands a right hand.
Tommy, I can't say it enough. Tommy's doing something extremely well. He's getting his shots off and walking away.
This is the best performance of Tommy Morrison's career against a quality fighter, win or lose.
Yes, you are correct.
I loved you when you say that, Riddick. You have a job forever. Foreman lands a left hand and another left, and Morrison is temporarily woozy. Now Tommy comes back with a right of his own. Morrison having trouble breathing. Less than 30 seconds to go in the round. Dundee screaming at Foreman to double up on his combinations. Mills Lane once again stopping the action, and Morrison steps in with an assertive right. Foreman's corner up in arms because Lane has now finally deducted a point. Deducted a point for low blows.
I don't know why he took that point away.
I had given that round to Foreman, and that means it's a 9-9 round on my scorecard anyway.
But it ain't going to help him none.
After giving a third warning for unintentional, that's unintentional low blows, deducted 1 point.
Let's take a look and see if we have this low blow here. Well, it's a borderline blow about down around Laredo. It's really not that bad of a punch, is it?
It wasn't, and Tommy didn't give any reaction that it was low.
And there's the deduction of the point as Lane turns to Foreman and says, I got to take one away from you.
George even looked puzzled.
And you heard the crowd respond as ring announcer Michael Buffer announced between rounds that a point had been deducted from Foreman. So now, despite a good round for Foreman in the 10th, he appears to be in jeopardy on the scorecards if the fight is being scored the way we might surmise that it is. 2 rounds to go for Tommy Morrison. He is into totally uncharted territory. The 11th and 12th rounds, the championship rounds, a new experience for Tommy the Duke Morrison.
I think George should apply the pressure more so at this point.
Well, you have to suspect, Riddick, that he's giving it everything he's got. He's 44 years old. He's no rapid mover in there. Relentlessness is his game, and he has had that tonight.
Yeah, but I think George is also giving a good account of himself, even though he's 44.
Oh, I think he's done about as well as you might have expected. It's just been very good Tommy Morrison up to this point. Morrison has taken himself up to another level in terms of commitment, in terms of will, in terms of boxing technique, in terms of ability to manage himself through a long fight. Something you did when you came in here and beat Evander Holyfield last November, Riddick.
I think Tommy is very fortunate at this point. I don't think George is as strong as he once was.
Yes, but of course, when George was heavyweight champion, Tommy was 5 years old. Left hook for Morrison, and he moves across the ring to get away. An increasingly elusive target for Foreman. Morrison all but running away from George Foreman now, and the crowd boos for the first time. They trade jabs, and Morrison's head snaps back. George still has that power. Good combination by Morrison. And no chance for Foreman to retaliate as Tommy runs away.
Very good. Last round, there ain't no more.
Keep your hand.
Ain't no more.
Keep your hands up.
Keep your hands up.
He hit this boy. He's about ready to quit any time, but he's getting room. So keep your hands up and get close to us.
A lot of combinations, okay? I need you. He's going to come at you here now, okay? Everything you coming forward on, okay? 7-7 combinations. Get on the inside. Be tight. Be tight on the inside. Look for you.
They doing that. Just don't blow your nose. Last round now. Champ, ain't no more. Don't let him turn his back on you.
Punch. You understand what I'm saying? Steal the last 30 seconds. That's right. They telling him he's got knocked out.
Let's go. Let's go. How do you choose?
And final round. How about a round of applause?
Tommy Morrison comes out.
Harold, quickly, how do you have to fight?
Larry, 107, 101, 8-2, one even, a commanding 6-point lead for Tommy the Duke Morrison.
I have it 7-3-1. It means that George Foreman needs a knockout. This could be the end of the great George Foreman saga.
Riddick, what is George's best chance for a knockout here? What should he be throwing?
George should be trying to set Tommy up with a left hook and perhaps a right uppercut. Other than that, he's not going to knock Tommy out.
Left hook to the body, right uppercut, up and under?
Pretty much, just like he's just tried to.
Foreman snaps Morrison's head back with a left. A very tired Tommy Morrison trying to stay away in round number 12. George Foreman has been hinting for months that this would be his last fight. If, in fact, Tommy Morrison emerges from this 12th round and gains the decision, as we suspect might be the case, then it's hard to imagine where George could go. The career that has seen so many ups and downs, so many incredible stops along the way, would finally be over 25 years after this man was first introduced as a hero to the American public in Mexico City in 1968. And now an anxious crowd rises to its feet with less than 2 minutes to go to see if Big George can pull off yet another amazing comeback.
What George has been doing wrong all night is following Tommy instead of cutting the ring off.
Foreman fans booing Morrison as he leans against Foreman and then walks away. Tommy going back to the jab, using the boxing that has carried him through the evening.
See, George continues to follow Tommy instead of cutting the ring off and putting his combinations together. I think if he did that a bit more, he would get Tommy in a lot more trouble.
So the drama is set. You know the story. 1 minute to go in round 12. Is it 1 minute to go in the career of former champion George Foreman, one of the greatest heavyweights of all time? Let's watch. seconds to go in the fight. Because of loose tape on Foreman's right glove, the obvious implication, Morrison gets a breather at the time when he might most have needed it. An upset Foreman corner steps up to the task of rewrapping the glove, and that might have been the final lucky break for Tommy Morrison, Riddick.
I would have to agree with you, Jim.
Well, Tommy Morrison has made his own break, Jim. This fight was really about whether he can fight, whether he is a world-class fighter, and I think everybody will accept him as that when the decision is announced.
Even though he's done it against a 44-year-old man?
Well, there'll always be a caveat, but coming into this fight, that was what everybody was wondering. He's done it. He has to get credit for it.
A lot of people thought Alex Stewart would get the decision over Foreman here a little more than a year ago. It appears that Tommy Morrison has done his job.
Tommy Morrison fought a disciplined, tactical fight. Nobody thought he could do that. He took some of George's best shots. Nobody thought he could do that. You just have to give him all the credit in the world for executing a game plan.
And we go back to the theme with which we began the evening. Last November, Riddick Bowe entered this ring surrounded by lots of questions and answered each one as the fight progressed. Riddick, it appears that Tommy has done pretty much the same thing tonight. Do you agree?
Yes, I do. We can't take anything away from Tommy. Tommy fought a superb fight. You know, he was just better than George tonight.
You said before the fight that you thought he had to treat it as a sparring session and tried to stay relaxed. Do you think he was able to do that?
Yes, I think he did that throughout the fight, and it worked for him.
Were you surprised that George was able to land the number of solid blows that he did without putting Tommy Morrison down?
Well, again, you got to keep in mind George Foreman is 44 now, and he's not as strong as he used to be. And again, you know, Tommy looked like he was in great shape, and so perhaps Tommy takes a better punch now than he did, you know, a couple of months ago.
Harold Letterman, how'd you score the fight?
Jim, 8-3, 1 even, 116, 111, Tommy Morrison. I mean, I thought the guy won it on movement. Beautiful game plan. I call it ring generalship. I mean, he got in his shots. He went to his right. He went to his left. Doubled up on a jab. Movement and speed. He just kept George Foreman off balance for 12 rounds. I only gave Big George 3 rounds. I think Morrison wins by 5 points.
Harold, we know that scoring is a subjective art at best. You've been watching Vegas judges for years. Can you imagine a scenario under which 2 of these judges would see George as the winner?
No, Jim. I think that Tommy absolutely deserves this decision.
Ladies and gentlemen, let me remind you the winner of this bout will be the WBO World Heavyweight Champion. We go to the scorecards. Dalby Shirley and Patricia Jarman both score the bout 117 to 110. Jerry Roth scores the bout 118 to 109 for the winner and new champion, Tommy the Duke Morrison. A round of applause, ladies and gentlemen, for Big George Foreman.
Joe's going to wire him up. Folks, regardless of how you score the bout, let's hear it from both fighters in the ring right now.
So the most improbable of results, perhaps the one least expected by all of the ringside observers here. In a 12-round decision, Tommy Morrison outboxes George Foreman. Final punch stat numbers show Morrison landed more blows, threw considerably more blows, and his connect percentage toward the end got into the same league with Foreman, 46% to 56%. Big George on target through much of the fight with the jab, but unable to land enough heavy lumber to put Tommy Morrison on his back. And you can see there the concerted effort that Morrison made The jab wasn't even a part of his arsenal in his last appearance here in January against Carl the Truth Williams. Tonight, he threw 261 of them in 12 rounds and landed a very creditable 33%. Now let's go up to Larry Merchant with a happy winner, Tommy Morrison.
Tommy, congratulations. This has certainly been your best fight as far as the public is concerned. Tell us what you went into this fight wanting to do and how you executed it.
We went out there, basically our game plan was to keep the jab in his face and not try to go to the one-punch stuff. Try to lead with a good jab, lead with speed, and follow with power, and a lot of head movement. And we stuck to the plan, and it won it for us.
Have you ever fought a tactical fight like that and been able to stick with it from the start to the end?
I've did a lot of tactical good fighting in the gym, but I've never been able to make the transition. This was a level of competition that was much higher than we're used to. Someone that punched a lot harder than we're used to. So we were very cautious, and I think subconsciously we stuck to our game plan a lot better than we ever had, and it won the fight for us.
In other words, you're saying your respect for George's power made you stay in the plan.
Exactly. It did a job for us, and I think it did it for Alex Stewart as well. He just wasn't as busy a fighter as I was.
Were you ever hurt by George? Did you feel his power?
I felt his power to the body. He hit me with some very good body shots. I tried to roll with most of the punches that went to the head. George is the type of guy that getting hit by him is like getting hit by a Volkswagen going 50 miles an hour. Someone like Riddick Bowe or Lennox Lewis is like getting hit by a Volkswagen going 120. So it's a little different of a power.
Going into this fight, the question was, does Tommy Morrison have a glass jaw, particularly after your Truth Williams fight? How did you withstand his shots? Why were you able to stand up there longer than some people thought you would?
Well, we were very observant of what was going on. We tried to roll with most of the punches. George Foreman it's very, very hard, but we're very cautious. And because his speed was so slow, I was able to see his punches coming and able to roll with them. Some of the other fighters, Carl Williams, a little quicker. And the punches that you don't see are the punches that hurt you.
Are you a different fighter today, and if so, why?
I think I'm an improving fighter. We've been trying to rededicate ourselves ever since our first loss. I think we're finally starting to make some very, very positive strides.
Do you think you're ready right now, or within 6 months, say, to go in against either Lennox Lewis or Riddick Bowe?
Well, this is the biggest level of improvement we've made to date. I think we still got a lot to learn. I've always said that boxing is a sort of sport that you never stop learning. I think that I would be open to fight either one of them, although between now and then I got to work very much on improving a lot more.
So are you saying that you think you need a few more fights before you take them, or is the money going to be so huge that you're going to have to take the shot now?
Well, now that I've won 12 rounds and I've experienced a much more disciplined type of fighting, I think that my learning will come a lot quicker, so I think that we'll be ready for something like that.
Give us what you see as a scenario for your fighting both champions.
Well, it's at this point, it's as we know, the heavyweight division is very unpredictable. You never know what's going to happen. Right now, my main objective is just to get some rest, and I'll let my managers take care of that.
You've earned it, Tommy. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good night. Jim?
All right, thanks, Larry. The words of a Tommy Morrison who now faces fascinating business prospects, including perhaps a battle with Riddick Bowe. And Riddick, you're tempted to say that Tommy grew up as a fighter a lot in there tonight. As a prospective opponent, how do you see him?
I would love to fight Tommy. I think Tommy has learned a great deal. But to be quite honest with you, I don't think he has the tools to beat a Riddick Bowe.
He still has the great left hook, although he wasn't able to put Foreman down. Is that the kind of weapon about which you say, I've got to stay away from his left hook?
Not only I, but anybody who faces Tommy. Tommy possesses a good left hook, but it's going to take more than that to beat a top guy.
Your plan appears to call for a fight against Evander Holyfield this fall if Holyfield gets past Alex Stewart. Could Tommy be next if Holyfield were to stumble against Stewart?
There's a great possibility, but you know who I want, and that's Lennox Lewis.
I know you want Lennox Lewis, but suppose the Lewis fight were pushed back into '94. You could make a lot of money with Tommy Morrison.
Yes, I could, but I have a great desire to fight Lennox, even though I think Tommy Morrison would be a great fight for myself. And we'll wait and see what the future brings.
We'll hear from WBC title belt holder Lennox Lewis a little bit later on. Right now, Larry Merchant stands by with the vanquished George Foreman.
George, did you think you lost the fight?
Oh, yeah, I was kind of surprised because I let him hold on the last round. I figured he's young. Why knock him out? He's went 11 rounds already. And then the decision was announced, and I'll go along with the judges. The state of Nevada and the WBO have spoken. I'm going to join them. This is a lesson for all the young people out there. You do your best. What's the use of crying over spilled milk? Go on to bigger things. It's been a wonderful stay in boxing. I've enjoyed every fight I was in. I went 12 rounds. The crowd was happy. I love boxing. I love the WBO, and I love HBO. I got a lot of love, but I'm moving on into fried chicken right now. As you know, Kentucky's got a new buffalo wing.
Let's get to the chicken later. Now let's go to the meat of the fight. In your heart, you thought you were winning the fight. He was running. Did you think that that would count against him, that at some crucial points in the fight, perhaps when you heard him, he started to run around the ring?
Well, I don't know. You know, once those fights are started, I told you earlier in the meeting that you live yesterday, hey, get into tomorrow and let that die. I'm moving on to bigger things. Tommy Morrison's got a great future ahead of him. I wish him all the best. His mother's raised him right. He's never cussed in front of me, and I've warned him, never cuss on television. Every time the cameras hit you, win, lose, or draw, give a smile.
Were you surprised, one, that he was able to take some of your best shots, given what happened, particularly in the Truth Williams fight?
Well, I hit him with a lot of good shots, and he was able to recover, and he would run occasionally. And I guess he did what he had to do. God bless him for it. If I was being hit that hard, I'd maybe run myself. But you get a 40-year-old man following you around, thumping on you, you'd run too. 45 or something.
Were you surprised that he was able to stick to a pretty good tactical game plan, go in and out on you, stay away, because he hadn't shown that before?
Well, I guess he has some guys in his corner giving him good advice. And I'd advise anybody when you're fighting a George Foreman, don't try to stay in there and punch. I was able to land some good punches, but as a rule, he survived. And I'm happy for him. He's WBO champion. It's spoken, and I'm happy.
Is this the end of the road for you as a prize fighter, George?
Well, I told my mother and even my wife, I went as far as telling my mother this time, look, she told me it was 1965. She didn't want me to be a football player for. Then she didn't want me to be a boxer. Now I'm going to obey my mama.
So you're not going to take 10 years off and make another comeback?
The only way I do come back, it'll be 10 years later when I come back. I want to be about 60. I can really show these whippersnappers something then.
Tell us what you think of Tommy Morrison as a potential challenger either for Lennox Lewis or for Riddick Bowe.
Oh, I think he's a fine young man with a bright future in front of him. He's taking the hardest shots he's going to get in his whole boxing career, and he survived and stood up pretty good. I think he can go further and do bigger things.
So we can say this is finito, the end of this tremendous journey that you've had as a comeback.
With all the beautiful words I've seen you use, I know you got something better than that. Give me another something with three syllables. Come on.
You're not going to fight again. Can we get a yes or a no?
Nah, you know, I told you this was the final frontier for George Foreman. I'm moving on into eating chicken and hot dogs right now. But I want you to give me a good farewell with some beautiful words. If I'm going, if you give me 3 words with 3 syllables, that means farewell, George. I won't box anymore. Well, but if you can't, I'm going to stay until I'm 65.
All right, but I know you're going to be in a I know you're going to be in a sitcom as a retired fighter dealing with youth. You're not going to have them write something into that. Into the script in which you're coming out of retirement again.
This is going to really be a trial for Tony Danza because he can be moving around and then all of a sudden he comes in as a manager saying, George, I think we can do it again. Then he can write it into the script. The next thing you know, I come back for one more shot at it. George Foreman and Lennox Lewis, Riddick Bowe.
But that'll only be in the sitcom.
Oh, come on now.
Thank you a lot, George. Okay.
The words of George Foreman, and as you might suspect, the question at this moment is, did he retire or did he not? Riddick, do you expect to see George in the ring again?
I think we've seen the last of George. I would have loved to see him go out as a winner, but what can I say?
But all in all, he goes out in a valiant effort, typical George, in that he appeared to be giving everything he had. It just wasn't enough.
Yes, George gave a good account of himself, and we all should take our hats off to George.
All right, we may or may not take our hats off to the next man because Riddick Bowe has a mean hatred for him. He's the WBC heavyweight champ, Lennox Lewis, standing by with Larry right now.
All right, Lennox Lewis, the WBC heavyweight champion. Lennox, quickly give us your analysis of this fight.
I thought Tommy Morrison did a good job. He did what he had to do, did a smart job, and he used his head. He never really went in there and, tried to punch it out. He moved around, and that's what he had to do.
Were you surprised, given his reputation in the past, for not being able to take a punch and for being a little reckless and undisciplined in the ring?
I thought he improves in every fight, and this fight just brought out different things. You know, he's not used to moving around like he was doing. He used to coming forward, and he's used to guys moving away from him. So this was a different fight for him, and he adapted well.
Would you like to fight Tommy Morrison next, even before Frank Bruno, or do you have an obligation to fight Frank Bruno first?
I have no obligations to box Frank Bruno. I would like to box Tommy Morrison. We're going to probably meet tomorrow and talk about it.
All right, now you have a damaged hand, which you damaged in your fight against Tony Tucker. Would you show us that scar on the outside of the right pinky and tell us what the damage is, how long will it take to heal, when can you fight next?
Well, what happened is a tendon that goes over this knuckle split. So the doctor put it back together, stitched inside, and then you get the final scar outside where they went in to operate. And it's going to maybe come out about 4 weeks.
So when do you think you'll be able to fight again?
September. I'm right on time. I heal really fast.
Thank you very much, Lennox, and we're looking forward to seeing you again.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Larry. Acknowledgement from Lennox Lewis that his people will be meeting with Tommy Morrison's people tomorrow. There has been a report that there is already the formation of a deal, a 50-50 deal between Lewis and Morrison. Riddick, do you expect that fight to take place?
I would have to think so. I think Lewis is ducking me, but what can I say?
And what do you think of Morrison's chances against Lennox Lewis?
They're not too good.
No, because of why?
I don't think he's strong enough to face a guy like Lennox Lewis. Lennox is big, he's strong. He needs somebody like me in front of him.
So you still believe that your ultimate target is Lennox Lewis?
Yes, indeed.
Did you have fun?
Very much so.
All right, thank you very much, champ. It was a pleasure to work with you, and we look forward to seeing you in the ring again on HBO.
Thank you.
Quite welcome. Now we turn again to our HBO boxing analyst, Larry Merchant. And Larry, a momentous occasion, probably the last fight of George Foreman's career.
Going into this fight, I thought this wasn't just experience versus youth. This was King Lear against Dennis the Menace. And I use the word king advisedly because although George hasn't been a champion, he has been the king of the ring since his comeback. And I use the word Dennis the Menace for Tommy Morrison advisedly because he has been a sort of out-of-control kid up to now, and now we have seen that he is starting to mature and become the heavyweight, perhaps, that many people predicted him beforehand. Just a final word of tribute for George Foreman. He's written a remarkable chapter in boxing history. There's never been anything quite like it. And he has just become one of the loveliest people ever in any sport. All of us do love him. And he just went out like a king tonight.
Well, thanks very much, Larry Merchant. We'll be back in a few seconds for final comments on what happened here. Right now, let's focus our attention on the next big sports event coming your way on HBO. In just a couple of weeks, we begin our 19th year of coverage of the world's most prestigious tennis tournament, the championships at Wimbledon.
HBO is taking you to court to witness the defense and answer the charges. From the opening statement to the final verdict. Wimbledon 93. HBO takes you to the most prestigious event in tennis for the 19th exciting year. And for the first time, it's live. Join hosts Jim Lampley and Billie Jean King for the only complete tournament coverage anywhere. Every weekday from the beginning. Wimbledon 93. The games begin Monday, June 21st, live on HBO. See you in court.
Our telecasts of Wimbledon begin Monday, June 21 at 9 a.m. Eastern, 6 a.m. Pacific time. Live match coverage. Our highlight show that first week will originate each evening at 7 p.m. Eastern and Pacific time. And we bring you back to the Thomas and Mack Center in Las Vegas, where Tommy Morrison has taken a big step forward in his career with a 12-round unanimous decision over George Foreman. But the larger story, we seem finally to have come to the end of one of the most unusual careers, not just in boxing, but in the entire history of sport. George Foreman's kaleidoscopic set of incarnations in public began 25 years ago, when in 1968 in Mexico City, he was the teenage Job Corps recruit from the rough streets of Houston who lit up a racially torn Olympics with a spontaneous display of American flags. Nearly 5 years passed before Foreman won the heavyweight championship with a breathtaking performance on a breathless night in Kingston, Jamaica.
Down goes Frazier! Down goes Frazier!
Joe Frazier would go down 6 times in all before the fight was stopped in the second round. After 2 quick knockout defenses, Big George was seen as an invincible champion heading into the Rumble in the Jungle, his 1974 date with an aging Muhammad Ali in Kinshasa, Zaire. But on an October night, after 8 rounds of rope-a-dope wizardry, Foreman was reduced to a tired, befuddled loser. And in his first career, he was never the same again. After another loss, 2.5 years later to Jimmy Young in Puerto Rico, the big man said he had seen God, and he went off to find him again. In the next 10 years, the hardest puncher in the history of the heavyweights became a remote curiosity, the country preacher tending his spiritual flock and puttering around his ranch in the backwoods outside of Houston. He was gone from boxing until the most improbable comeback of the baby boomer generation. It began as a lighthearted crusade for the notion that 40 was fine. But when the 42-year-old challenger held up through 12 brutal rounds with champion Evander Holyfield in April 1991, nobody was laughing anymore. It was to be the last hurrah. There would be 3 more wins for the record, but no more real title shots. And when younger, faster hands caught up with George Foreman's 44-year-old body tonight, the former champion was exposed once and for all in the identity he magically dodged for so long. A too old, too vulnerable fighter, one who stayed in the ring just one night too long. He finishes at 72-4 with the highest knockout percentage of any other heavyweight champion. But those are only numbers. The real miracle of George Foreman has been written on the faces of the boxing fans. He has left awestruck and delighted for 25 years. The executive producer of HBO Sports is Ross Greenberg. Tonight's telecast was produced by Rick Bernstein and Michael J. Whalen and directed by Mark Payton and Jeffrey Payton Goff. The associate producers were Dave Harmon, Brian McDonald, and Kirby Bradley. The associate directors were Kendall Reed and Betsy Aronin. The assistants to the producer, David Leipson, Adam Berger, and Artie Curry. The director of production was John McCallie. The production manager was Ralph Cohen, and the technical supervisors were George Wenzel and Bob Hunter. This has been a presentation of HBO Sports, the network of champions.
Next on HBO, a rich nerd and a streetwise guy from the hood change places in this funky comedy. Rap stars Kid and Play bring down the house in Class Act. Next on HBO.
You only have to look to one.